Hello, and thanks for joining in and tuning in. Today, we are excited to share a video with you about Saturn, the Lord of Time and Transformation.
Welcome, everyone. This is MC Starman Martin Comtois, and I'm joined with the lovely Diana Robinson. How you doing, Day?
I'm good. It's been a wild weekend, but I'm excited to dive into Saturn. I feel like it'll give me a little bit of structure to my wild weekend.
Saturn is turning retrograde on October 22nd, 23rd. And so we thought we'd take a deep dive into the archetype of Saturn. We got a great slideshow for you, but please subscribe to the channel, share this, and any comments or questions. We have a question and answer comment. So thanks for joining us.
Yeah, it's going to be turning direct.
So this is Saturn here with this child. Saturn, the Grim Reaper, was known to eat his children. So Saturn is a very interesting archetype. I pulled out these quotes from a Google search. Go ahead.
In astrology, Saturn is all about your moral obligations and authority. It comes up in the way you handle responsibility, create boundaries, and do other adulting activities in life. Therefore, knowing your Saturn sign will help you understand how it plays into your daily routine.
So Saturn is really about being in the world, huh?
Yeah.
God of the capital, which is a famous building in Greece, god of time, of wealth, of agriculture, and liberation. Saturn was celebrated at Saturnalia, and him and his brother Jove co-ruled in the Greek times, but also in the Roman times.
Saturn is also about maturity, responsibility, discipline, and stewardship. Says Jennifer Freed, psychological astrologer and author of Use Your Planets Wisely. Look at each sign and what it means to be a mature using its archetypical energy.
So then Saturn also is known as Kronos, linear time, so the tick-tock, and Kairos, magical time, synchronicity. There's moments in time that seemed endless, or so much is contained in those moments in time. Those times of transformation are Kairos and Kronos, and sometimes they're times of destruction. Here's Kronos. You see the hourglass on top of his hand, and here he is with this sickle mowing down the life. And then you got Mercurius here kind of commenting. So Saturn turned retrograde in Aquarius on June 4th at 25 degrees Aquarius. Then the key point of the Saturn retrograde was August 18th, when Saturn opposed the Sun in the Leo Aquarius. So you can look back at how you were handling that in your own time, and then turns direct on the 22nd at 18 degree Aquarius. And then Saturn will come into Pisces on March 7th, and Saturn ingress into Aries on May
25. But
yes,
and on the 26th.
So the archetype of Saturn, how we meet that archetype is where it is placed in our chart. So my Saturn is in the 9th house in conjunction with the MC in the sign of Capricorn. So Saturn in Capricorn is its exalted place. It's very strong. There's a lot of discipline. There's an invitation to mastery. Ninth house is the house of higher knowledge. And because it's an MC, it dominates the chart. Now, anytime this point is triggered by transit in another planet, it becomes really significant. So that's my natal placement of Saturn. You want to go look at your chart. Where is my Saturn? Where's your Saturn, Dave?
Saturn in my natal chart is in the 3rd house, and it's conjunct my IC, so the bottom of the chart, the opposite of the MC, and it is in Pisces.
So Saturn in Pisces, it's very, so Saturn seeks to give form and mastery to the mystical realm of Pisces, right?
Something that doesn't really tend to have a lot of form
And
and structure in general as an archetype.
well, if you look at each time that Saturn was in Pisces,
yeah,
in the mid 1990s and in the mid to late 1960s, those are all really powerful times of a recovery and an empowering of mysticism. So Saturn seeks to master
right,
whatever it is. And so then the mastery of the mystical realm of Pisces, it becomes very, I mean, you're really kind of, and then because it's at the IC in the 3rd house, it's about communicating it. And
it's definitely what I like to connect about most. yeah.
And it also forms the root of your very being, this mystical practice, so Saturn. So does that make sense?
Yeah.
So then where is your Saturn is really important. You want to keep that as we go further in this video.
And
go
can
ahead.
I just add where Saturn is for me natally is there, but right now, Saturn, like when it finally goes direct at the end of the month on the 23rd, it's going to be at 18 degrees Capricorn. So it's going to trigger where it is in your natal chart, but also look at your chart. If you're looking at your chart right now, where is 18 degrees of Capricorn on your chart? Because that's where Saturn is passing at the moment.
Right. Well, actually, when you look at the movements of Saturn, we talked about Saturn moving retrograde, right? So if you look at the movements of Saturn went to 25 degrees of Aquarius, then it went retrograde to 18th, and then they'll turn direct and they'll go back to 25 degrees, and then it'll go into Pisces. So that means that between 18 and 25, if you have any planets there, it got 3 transits of Saturn in the last year. So that's really how an outer planet's transits, it's really judged by what it transits in your own chart. So any planets between 18 and 25 in your chart?
Me and I guess my whole generation of people who have had the Uranus Neptune conjunction.
The Uranus Neptune conjunction
right
got
on there.
triple pass. So I say the first pass, when Saturn comes the first time, that's like a wake-up call. Hello, I'm coming through. When it returns, you go, oh, that's what's going on. And then when it goes through the 3rd pass is integration. Like, oh, I got this lesson now. I got it. I can move on. Myself, I have Chiron at 25 degrees, 24 degrees. So then that my Chiron has really been triggered by this Saturnian transit. And then this next pass here in the fall, later in the fall, is going to be really important to me. Another couple of things about Saturn is Saturn rules 2 signs. What sign does Saturn rule?
Capricorn and Aquarius traditionally.
So Capricorn and Aquarius, they're back to back, and Saturn went from Capricorn to Aquarius. So Saturn's been very strong for the last 4 years. So what is Saturn in Capricorn? So Capricorn is about giving form to things. It's about
Authority and structure.
structure, authority, just giving form to things. So Saturn in Capricorn, so Capricorn is very Saturnian, but it's an earth sign, right? So
Yeah.
Saturn in Capricorn is really concerned about, waking up on time, being disciplined, taking my responsibilities, doing the thing that I need to do. So we all relate to that. Personally, Saturn in Capricorn, whoa, you gotta be taking care of business. And then for you, it's like Saturn, and it's kind of like
You got to be connecting with spirit, doing your
you
spirit
gotta
work,
be
or you
connected
go
with spirit.
crazy.
So where is your Saturn, and what does Saturn tell you? Then Saturn in Aquarius, no, so now Saturn is in Aquarius. Saturn in Aquarius, Aquarius is an air sign, and it's involved with so because it's an air sign, it's involved with ideas, ideologies. It's about groups. It's about belief systems. It's about
Knowledge.
knowledge. It's about changing. It's about evolution, revolution.
Higher
It's
understanding.
So then Saturn in Aquarius is much different than Saturn in Capricorn. Now Saturn in Aquarius becomes giving of structure to ideas. In the earth element of Capricorn, we give structure to things. In Saturn and Aquarius, we give structures to ideas and beliefs. We discuss what is the best thing, and we've been, ever since the Saturn and Aquarius, uh, and with the square to Uranus, it's like, okay, how are we gonna, how do we going to grow and evolve out of these crazy times?
Aquarius has got that strong, it's also very authoritative, I find, the Aquarius energy. So
Absolutely.
strong to their own inner authority. And on a collective sense, because Saturn is always also about a collective too, I feel like there's been this huge push for discipline and structure of how we organize ourselves as humans. And before that was the structure. So it's kind of counterintuitive, because when I think about keep thinking of the idea of building a home. If you're thinking about the idea of the building a home, typically you would do the idea work first, and then you'd build the home, which would be the ideas, how you're going to do it all, Aquarius, and then Capricorn. But it goes through the chart the opposite way. So you would first maybe buy the land for a communal living situation, and then be like, okay, now what agreements do we have to make this really work?
But you also have Libra, and then Scorpio, and then Sagittarius to prepare you to get into Capricorn. I think the reason why Aquarius is after Capricorn is because no, you built it all wrong. We need to do it again. We need to redo it, and also
Sol's in Pisces, and you go all over again.
exactly. The problem though with the Saturn and Aquarius, it's not the most flexible, it's a fixed sign. We tend to really be attached to our ideas, and so we see that, stubborn, holding on to one's ideas, so it's not really that gentle of a placement. So this has been fun. So Saturn's in transit. So whenever Saturn is moving through, whatever planet is touched by Saturn, like we talked about Saturn passing 3 times over any planets between 18 and 25 degrees of Aquarius. Now, as Saturn moves through the zodiac, whenever it touches a planet, it forces an integration of that planet. Now, this most important of transits of Saturns are what we call the Saturn return. Both myself and I just had my second Saturn return, And then Day is getting ready to have her first Saturn return. So what does that mean? So the first Saturn return, if you have Saturn in Aquarius, that means between 91 and 93, you're having your first Saturn return. Second Saturn return, 62 to 64. I was born in 59, and so I had my Saturn return when Saturn entered into Capricorn and triggered my Capricorn Saturn at 4 degrees of Capricorn. So these are really important times that you can look for. So roughly between 28 and 30, between 58 and 60, one will have the first or the second Saturn return. And if Saturn is in Aquarius, you've experienced either your first or second Saturn return. So how does that Saturn return feel to you? I mean, you're getting ready for your own Saturn return. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, I felt a lot of trepidation, to be honest, like a little bit nervous and cautious as to what's to come. But knowing that we were going to do this video, I just did a quick little dive into when Saturn has triggered my life so much in the past. And I found that it was when I signed up for a nutrition. Well, at first I went through this big angst of needing to do the next thing, and I signed up for a nutrition school, and that was a great disciplinary structuring time in my life, and I'm really glad I did it. And it was hard at times, just because of everything else going on in life at that time, and finances and navigating world, but it was good. It's also slightly isolating. And then I looked into when Saturn trined things. So in square is typically a harder energy to integrate. Trine has a more harmonious flow because it's the same element communicating. And so when it trined, it's going through Scorpio. And I believe that was like in 2013. And that's when I graduated from high school. And that was neat to witness too, because there was a lot, there was a lot of discipline and structure and some isolation, but it was a little bit more freeing, easier to integrate. So now as it comes into my actual Saturn return, hopefully it'll be not too hard to integrate. It is in trine to my stellium in Scorpio, so there's hope.
Absolutely, there's always hope. So basically what that means is that you can trace your evolution, your own evolution. Okay, so we ran out of internet there for a second. So what this means basically is that whenever you have Saturn, movement of Saturn through the chart and how it relates to your own natal Saturn, so 7 years, 14 years, 21, and then 28, 35, 42, 49, and so on. You can trace the evolution of an individual through the Saturn. Myself, I started studying astrology in my first Saturn return. And then in my second Saturn return, I've come to a level of mastery of the work that really demanded me to become even more committed to the art. So Saturn governs what Jung calls the vocation. What are you here to do? And Saturn's always there to make sure you go for it and you do what you're here to do. So now we've been having the Saturn return of anybody born with Saturn in Aquarius. And we put those dates up. We'll put those dates up again too. And then, but now we're preparing all of the generations of people born with Saturn in Pisces are getting ready for their Saturn return. And that's really an important time in your life. So if you don't know how to find that out, reach out, leave us a message, and then we can send you your chart, or we can find out where your Saturn is. So here's those dates again for the first Saturn return, 91 to 93. That's if you have Saturn in Aquarius. Second Saturn return, 62 to 64. Again, you have Saturn in Aquarius.
So that's if you're born during those years, you mean?
Exactly. So exactly.
Cool.
Then Saturn in Pisces. So in March, Saturn enters into Pisces, will be into Pisces till 2025. It's going to do some very interesting thing. Mainly, it's going to conjunct Neptune, which we'll talk lots about. That's going to be interesting, huh? You got a deep breath
Wow.
out of you, huh? And then the first Saturn return in Pisces, 93 to 95. And then the second, 64 to 66. And these dates are approximate. There may be some error there. So Saturn is known as the Senex. He's always portrayed as an old man, and he's got his sickle. It's and then the dragons too, and associated with the harvest. You know, the hard work that you put in to harvest. And dragons or serpents are driving his chariot. Very interesting. Now, this Senex, old man, in alchemy is known as Saturnus, the old man that is burnt up. The animal, the bird of Saturn is the raven. And the alchemical Saturnus is known as the Sol Niger. He's the black sun. So here we have the sun and the moon. We have Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and the black Saturn as the old man who's being transformed by the alchemical process. So symbolically, we have the death of the old king and the rebirth of the new king, which is the symbolization of the process of individuation, of us dying to our old self to be born to our new self. So Saturn symbolizes this mastery of this process. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah. Yep.
It's one of the real wonderful contributions of Jung is that he helps us see the planets from the alchemical perspective. And Saturnus is very, very important in this process of becoming who I am more fully.
That's why I guess like Saturn returns for people are typically a time of great initiation. Like I know for a long time, in other astrologers I'd connected with, it would always say like you're not really fully grown up or a full adult until you've come through your Saturn return. And also like claiming the wisdom years starts after your second Saturn return.
Also, the second time Saturn opposes natal Saturn, that's known as the midlife crisis between 40 and 42. It's also puberty from 14 years old.
Oh wow.
So then the
Initiations again.
exactly times rites of passage. So then
time and transformation, right back to the beginning.
Exactly. So Saturn is the dweller on the threshold that initiates you into the next passage. He's the keeper of the gate. He's the grim reaper that ordains the dying and the rebirth, and the limits of the ego. So that's that alchemical perspective to hit. And I don't know if that made the video more choppy or if it made it look like it was edited, but let us know what you think about it. It's been really fun sharing the wisdom of Saturn with you. You have any last questions or feedbacks on what we did today, dear Day? Yana?
No, I really encourage you to look at where Saturn is in your chart. It can really help. We also, I guess the one thing we haven't mentioned is that we've mentioned in every other video the last year probably though, is this big Saturn Uranus square. And so there is a big challenge against the Saturn aspects in ourselves and in society. And we've seen this authority structure challenge within our societies, either globally or even within your communities and countries, probably maybe even in your workplace. That challenging of authority structure, I think, is all over the world right now. And it's here because it needs to be here. But it's not always easy and it shows up in many forms. So being patient with yourself and finding where your Saturn is to ground yourself in what your authority and truth is.
And yet being really disciplined, find out, the limits of your ego is Saturn, so what you can take in and what you can't take out. Saturn, when it's very strong, somebody asked that, how do you know if Saturn, yeah, that was Linda. Linda asked, Linda Bargibo out of Calgary asked that question. How do you know if Saturn is strong in your chart? Well, that's not an easy thing. Where is Saturn in your chart will tell us, what house and what sign will tell us how strong it is. And then what aspects that it makes to the other planets.
What's its relationship to your whole being?
Exactly. What angle does it make to the moon and to the sun? How strong it's supported, or if it's on-aspected, but mostly where it stands in the chart. Of course, if it's in Aquarius or Capricorn, it's going to be very strong. In Libra, it's also very strong. Fiery signs, it's not so comfortable. Watery signs, not so comfortable. But air and earth signs, Saturn is very happy. But then, you have to look at the overall tenure of the chart. But you brought up a really good point. And one of the reasons I wanted to cover Saturn in full body in this video is because, so when Saturn starts moving direct again, it will start moving away from the exact square with Uranus, and it will so quite rapidly. By the end of the year, it's already going to be about 10 degrees away from the exact square to Uranus. So this major alignment we've been contending with is going to start easing up, and we're going to see a release of energy. And as Saturn starts moving direct and picks up speed, so when a planet goes from retrograde to direct, there's a station. Station means it doesn't move very much, slows way down, barely moves, and then stops moving direct, and then starts picking up speed. So we're going to go through that whole station direct while the eclipses, the solar eclipse and the lunar eclipse. And by the lunar eclipse, already after the lunar eclipse, we're going to see Saturn moving away. And even by the next full moon after that, it's barely making angle, because Uranus is still moving retrograde and Saturn is moving direct. So now they're moving apart from each other really fast. So to me, that's going to ease the tension, because a lot of the tension that are present right now is about this Saturn-Uranus square. I think
so a month ago,
go ahead.
About a month ago left.
About a month ago, well, we're the 10th now, so I'd say 2 weeks till things start moving in the other way. And then that full moon eclipse on the 8th will be very major. So yeah, we're not out of the woods yet.
Home stretch.
This has been really fun, my dear.
Yeah.
I'm going to do the last slide. Boom. And so the last slide is The Healer and the Dreamer Astrology. We mix alchemy, astrology, dreams, and Jung in a beautiful blend. I'm Martin Comtois. You can connect with me at spiritofthetimes108@gmail.com. If you message me, you say you've seen this video and you want to know where your Saturn is, I'll send you your chart for you. Be happy to do that. And Diana will do that as well. If you'd like to connect with us, this has been a lot of fun, and I hope you enjoy the format of this video. Again, subscribe, pass it on, comment. We're out of here. Diana, that was fun.
For now. Yeah, thank you, Martin.
Whoop, 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 whoop.
Bye, everyone.